This is your USMNT Abroad weekend update from November 1st to November 3rd of 2024. Hello. If you're new here, I'm Filippo and welcome to Tactical Manager TV and welcome to the US Men's National Team Abroad series where every single Monday we update you on how the Yanks did abroad over the weekend. Now this week we will have the US Men's National Team roster release at some point, we don't know the day yet, for the roster that we're going to be sending to the CONCACAF Nations League quarterfinals that we're going to be facing Jamaica. But you know what else is happening this week? The United States of America presidential elections, which I'm sure there will be no drama, plenty of rational takes coming from both sides. Everyone's gonna behave like an adult, regardless of who wins or who loses. Who am I kidding? It's gonna be a shit show. But we're not gonna talk about that today. What we're gonna be talking about is the US Men's National Team players abroad. And I would truly appreciate if you could smash the like button right now to help the channel. It helps us a lot. And just drop a random comment in the comment section to rig the YouTube algorithm. Now, let's try to hit 1,000 likes. And that's all, okay? Let's roll the intro and start the episode. As always, we start with the top 5 leagues in Europe, the first one being the English Premier League. So let's go to England, and we can start by talking about Chris Richards and Matt Turner from Crystal Palace. And on Saturday, Matt Turner stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes for Crystal Palace during their 2-2 draw with Wolves. As for Chris Richards, he was not available once again due to injury, but he is expected to be back in training this week and possibly back on the field right after the international break. Next up would have been Anthony Robinson from Fulham, but Fulham plays on Monday. We record this on Sunday, so you know the drill. Let us know in the comment section down below. How did Robinson do for Fulham on Monday? Next on the list, we have Tyler Adams from Bournemouth. And on Saturday, Tyler Adams started off the bench and was subbed in the 66th minute for Bournemouth during their massive 2-1 win over Manchester City. Right away, I want to say that it's good to see his minutes slowly go up. As for his performance, Tyler was nothing short of fantastic. He was really good. He came off the bench to help them hold the lead, which they did. A lot thanks to him. He was tremendous defensively. He was moving well, protecting the back line like a true defensive midfielder. On the ball, he looked fine. Man City had most of the possession while Tyler was on the pitch. However, Tyler still managed to create a chance for his teammates. I will end it with this. It was a very encouraging performance off the bench from Tyler Adams that is returning from injury against one of the best teams in the world. And I also have a question for you. Tyler Adams is clearly not 90 minutes fit yet, right? So would you bring him to the US Men's National Team camp right now? Or would you leave him in England and let him rest, get in shape, get in form, and stay healthy? Right? Because with the travel and the very physical games against Jamaica, there's a risk there. What would you do? Bring Tyler Adams in or let him stay in England for now? Okay, we're done with the Americans in England. Now it's time to go to Italy and talk about the Americans that play in the Serie A. But before we start, I'm going to give you a quick, free history lesson. Italians love to claim that they created pizza, but pizza was actually created in New York City, believe it or not. And then the Italian mob that was in Brooklyn stole the idea of pizza, brought it to Naples, and claimed they created it. That is totally a true story. I didn't make that up, and you should believe me. But don't Google it. Don't Google it, okay? Just trust me. So with that said, now we can go and talk about the Americans that play in Italy. The first two being Christian Pulisic and Yunus Musah from Milan. And on Saturday, Pulisic started and played 89 minutes for Milan during their 1-0 win over Monza. As for Musah, he was subbed in around the 89th minute and played as a right winger. And I got no further comments in regards to Musah's performance because he was there for like a few minutes. But, how did Christian Pulisic do? And let me start by saying that Milan just kind of sucked all game long. They were terrible, horrendous. They were even lucky to have the lead at halftime. And honestly, they were also lucky to get this win. They were abysmal. As for Christian Pulisic, he was not bad by any means. He was just a bit passive in my opinion. He had 0 shots all game long. And then he had a few crosses here and there. And it seemed like he contributed a lot more on defense rather than on offense. Even though, I'll say this, Milan's lucky goal came after Pulisic placed a perfect cross to Morata, which led to Morata's header being blocked and the ball landing near Reinders to score for Milan during the first half. But Pulisic's overall performance was kind of meh. It was an okay performance at best. And understand that he set the bar very high this season. So what I would say is that this was probably among his worst performances. But again, that's because he set the bar super high. The biggest question I had after watching this game, well, actually I had two. One is why Milan is so bad. They have good players. I don't know why they're so bad. But mainly, I'm wondering, how the heck did Spain manage to win the Euros with Morata playing up top? The dude is either offside, or just missing the target, or losing the ball. The dude freaking sucks. But I know, he fit the system and all that, blah, 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 and they won. Okay, but he sucks. I'll die on this hill. Next up, we have Tim Weah and Weston McKennie from Juventus. And on Saturday, Tim Weah started and played 87 minutes for Juve during their 2-0 win over Udinese. As for Weston McKennie, he came off the bench around minute 70 for Juve, and he did fine. He didn't really get many touches when he came on, but he helped them secure the win. He did also score for Juventus during the midweek when they faced Parma, and I don't think he was actually benched. I think Thiago Motta was just rotating. As for Tim Weah, in this game, he wasn't great, but also not terrible, I guess. He started on the right wing, and then late in the second half, he moved to the left wing. Right wing, left wing, he was essentially an undecided, United States voter. But keep in mind that Tim Weah scored a goal last weekend, and then during the midweek, he got a goal and an assist against Parma. So he cooled off a little bit this game, but Weah has actually been quite good for Juventus on the wing. He really has, right? And he's struggled to be productive in Europe over the past few seasons because very often when he was playing for Ligue or even for Juventus under Allegri, the soccer terrorist, Tim Weah would always play wingback or as a fullback. Now, Thiago Motta is actually playing him as a winger. So Weah has been far more productive this season than any other season before. I wonder why. Next up is Gianluca Busio from Venezia. And on Sunday, Busio started off the bench and was subbed in at halftime for Venezia during their 1-0 loss to Inter Milan. Now, before we continue, I want to apologize in advance. We have to put a quick word from the sponsor of this video, SoRare. After all, I have to pay for all the subscriptions to watch all of these games somehow. So a quick word from the sponsor of this video, SoRare. The link to play will be in the description of the video. We'll be back in 60 to 90 seconds. Do you collect sports cards? Do you play fantasy sports? Yes, no, maybe. If you said yes to any of that, I got something for you. And if you said no, you might still want to stick around. Tactical Manager TV is partnering up with SoRare with a special offer. The link will be in the description. In SoRare, you can collect your own virtual cards of your favorite players. And then you may be asking, why would I want to collect virtual cards? Well, you can line them up on 5-a-side games every single week. And if your players perform in real life, you can win actual money, signed jerseys, game tickets, or even more cards to improve your own club. And you can also get unique experiences like a friend of the channel, Fiago, that got to meet Zinedine Zidane. You know what's also cool? They also have the NBA and Major League Baseball. I'm mainly gonna just stick to soccer, but you do you. What I really like about SoRare before we even partnered with them is that they're unlike other fantasy games where you have to pay per play. In SoRare, you pay to get the players you want permanently as cards. And then you can play multiple times using those same cards, at least until the player retires, win rewards if your players perform in real life. You can also buy undervalued player cards for cheap, then hold, use them in the future when they improve or develop, and then you can even sell that card when its value goes up for better ones. Or just keep the money yourself. If you sign up with the link in the description of this video, you will get $50 in credit to buy your first cards. Again, the link will be in the description. Use that link to make sure you get the special offer. Play with responsibility. All right, enjoy. Next up are the Americans that play in Germany in the Bundesliga. Now, before we talk about the players that we normally cover, the bat signal went off this weekend. Actually, not the bat signal, the dual national signal. There's a new one that we have mentioned before here at the channel, and he performed well. The 21-year-old German-American left back Nathaniel Brown got his first Bundesliga start for Eintracht Frankfurt. Oh, and he scored a goal. Considering the lack of depth the US men's national team has at the left back position, he is one to keep an eye on. With this goal, he earned a spot at the USMNT Abroad series, and we're now going to start tracking him closely every weekend. I mean, we're still calling up Christopher Lund, so might as well give this kid a look. With that said, now let's talk about Giovanni Reyna and Cole Campbell from Borussia Dortmund. And on Saturday, Gio Reyna was still not available for Dortmund due to an injury, but Cole Campbell came off the bench around minute 89 or 90th for Dortmund during their 2-1 win over RB Leipzig. This was the third consecutive game that the 18-year-old American winger got minutes. Next on the list would have been Kevin Paredes from Wolfsburg, but he's still currently injured. He'll be back one day, I'm assuming after the international break. With that said, let's go and talk about Joe Scally from Borussia Mönchengladbach. And on Sunday, Scally started and played the full 90 minutes for Gladbach as a right back this time during their 4-1 win over Werder Bremen. Last but not least in Germany would have been Leonard Maloney from Heidenheim, but he was not available for them this weekend due to a knock. He's expected to be back soon, but there's no confirmation or guarantee that he will be available for them during the midweek or over the weekend. Time to leave Germany and go to Spain, so we can talk about two Americans that play in Spain. The first one being Luca de la Torre from Celta Vigo. He still is not making the bench for them. He's allegedly injured, and as I said before, I don't expect him to play a single minute for Celta Vigo this season. He's probably going to get a transfer in January. So let's skip on Luca de la Torre and talk about Johnny Cardoso from Real Betis. And on Sunday, Johnny started and played the full 90 minutes for Real Betis during their 1-1 draw against Athletic Bilbao. It was a solid performance from Johnny, not as good as the last weekend, but he played very well, mostly on the defensive end. Next up are the Americans that play in France in Ligue. The first one would have been Florin Balogun from Monaco. He's still recovering from injury. We know that Balogun's ahead of schedule, but he's definitely not going to be back before the international break, which means he'll probably at the earliest be back during Thanksgiving, and at the latest, Christmas. Let's just call him a holiday guy. And after Balogun, we have Caleb Wiley from Strasbourg. And on Saturday, Caleb Wiley was back on the bench for Strasbourg after being out for almost 2 months due to a knee tendonitis. He was subbed in close to the 90th minute or so, something like that. But the good news here is not that he played like 30 seconds. The good news is that Caleb Wiley, a very promising American left back, is back. Next on the list, we have Mark McKenzie from Toulouse. And on Sunday, McKenzie started and played the full 90 minutes for Toulouse, helping them hold a clean sheet and get a 1-0 win over Reims, or Reims. Again, I can never pronounce this team's name. And this was actually the second consecutive game that Toulouse got a clean sheet with Mark McKenzie starting and playing the full 90 minutes. Next up, we have Tanner Tessman from Lyon. And on Friday, Tessman stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes for Lyon during their 1-1 draw with Lille. Now, American-born Canadian forward Jonathan David actually scored for Lille this game. Canada has an American striker, an American coach, multiple players developed in MLS, including their best player of all time, Alphonso Davies. At some point, will the Canadians swallow their pride and say thank you? I mean, it's past due, isn't it? There's a reason why I call them the rude Canadians. Next up are the Americans that play in the Eredivisie. Why don't we start with the PSV boys? Malik Tillman, Ricardo Pepi, and Richie Ledesma. I'm not going to mention Serginho Dest because he's still recovering from the torn ACL. He's actually expected to be back around January or February of 2025. And we're almost there. But on Saturday, Malik Tillman started and played the full 90 minutes for PSV during their 3-2 loss to Ajax. This was actually PSV's first loss of the season in the Eredivisie with 11 games played. As for Ricardo Pepi, he came off the bench around minute 81, and PSV was down 3-2 at the time, trying to pull a late draw that unfortunately they were not able to do so. Richie Ledesma stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes. Malik Tillman played the full 90. So how did he do? For the most part, he was pretty mediocre. But on top of that, he made a crucial mistake on the last goal scored by Ajax. PSV was actually playing Tillman super deep throughout the game. It's not the first time they do that. He almost looked like a 6 or a central defensive midfielder or a regista, deep line playmaker, whatever you want to call it. I just don't think he has the awareness or the sense of urgency to play there. He has to play high up the field. Eventually, that decision came back to bite them. He was super casual, careless, and sleepy at times on the ball, and that's exactly how he behaved on the build-out late in the game, which led to a bad giveaway in Ajax scoring. He's usually very good for PSV in the Eredivisie, to be fair, but this game wasn't it. Now, serious question about Malik Tillman. He is talented. That is not really debatable. It's quite clear when you watch him play in the Eredivisie and even when he played in Scotland. But here's my question to you. When was the last time, or have you ever seen Malik Tillman perform very well outside of the Eredivisie, where PSV bullies most of their opponents, or in Scotland when he played for Rangers and they also bullied most of their opponents outside of Celtic, including the fact that Tillman didn't really play well when they faced Celtic? My point is, have we ever seen Tillman perform very well against a very tough opponent? There might be one Champions League performance that I remember he played kind of well against Dortmund, but outside of that, do you remember any performance against a tough team from Malik Tillman that was good? I truly don't. But again, I'm not questioning his talent. I'm questioning his performances. Next up, still in the Netherlands, we have Taylor Booth and Paxton Aaronson from Utrecht. And on Sunday, Paxton Aaronson and Taylor Booth both started for Utrecht during their 4-1 win over Sparta Rotterdam. Booth was subbed out at halftime, and he's been having a rough season with a mix of poor performances and injuries, while Paxton Aaronson, he actually played the full 90 minutes and even scored a late scrappy goal for Utrecht. But that scrappy goal only happened thanks to a great run from Paxton with a through ball from the midfield to set up his teammate for a cross that led to his goal. So he essentially got the scrappy goal and a hockey assist. All right, time to go back to the island, time to go back to England so we can talk about the Americans that play in the second division of England, the EFL Championship. The first one being Josh Sargent from Norwich, and Sargent injured his groin. He is out of the US men's national team camp. Even if Pochettino was to call him, he is not available. He'll be back after the international break. And listen, I've always defended Josh Sargent quite a bit. I think he's talented. He's played very well for Norwich in the EFL Championship, but he is slowly pushing himself further and further from the national team. Sure, the injuries for the most part are not his fault, but due to injuries and stinkers or bad performances that he's put out for the national team, he's slowly getting out of the conversation. Now, he's not done with the national team. He's still young enough that he can work his way back, and also injuries can lead to us calling him back in, right? But right now, Balogun and Pepe are number 1 and number 2. Sargent has a lot of work to do, and he's out of this camp. So again, that's all I have to say about Josh Sargent. So next up, we have Brenden Aaronson from Leeds United. And on Saturday, Brenden Aaronson started and played 66 minutes and scored a goal for Leeds, helping them get a 3-0 win over Plymouth. This result has Leeds sitting in second place in the EFL Championship. As it stands, they will be playing the Premier League next season, but we still got 30 games to go. Now, before we continue, don't forget to drop a like in this video if you haven't already. If you made it this far, it helps us quite a bit. Let's get this to 1,000 likes. Thank you very much. Thank you for it. I appreciate it. Next up, we have Haji Wright and Aidan Morris because Coventry and Middlesbrough clashed over the weekend. And on Saturday, Haji Wright started and played 84 minutes for Coventry during their 3-0 win over Middlesbrough. Haji was the man of the match. He scored Coventry's second goal with a nice finish off a low cross, and then later he got a wonderful assist, a beautiful through ball for his teammate. It was one of those passes that, Juan Riquelme managed to pull off on a consistent basis. As for Aidan Morris, he started and played the full 90 minutes for Middlesbrough during this 3-0 loss. And please, I am not comparing Haji to Riquelme. I'm just saying that specific pass that he put through, that through ball, was something Riquelme was able to do all the time. Still in the United Kingdom, we have 2 Americans that play in Scotland, that play for Celtic. And their names are Cameron Carter-Vickers and Austin Trusty. And on Saturday, Trusty and Carter-Vickers started for Celtic during their 6-0 win over Aberdeen in the Scottish League Cup semi-finals. Trusty played the full 90 minutes and Carter-Vickers played 64. But Carter-Vickers was the one that scored a goal for Celtic. He scored one of their goals, even though he only played 64 minutes because he just got back from his 250th whatever toe injury. The dude's toe is always injured, but it looks like Carter-Vickers is healthy, and he's actually a name I expect to see with the US men's national team this November. Alright everyone, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like before you go and a random comment in the comment section of this video to boost us in the YouTube algorithm. Also, thank you very much SoRare for sponsoring the channel. If you want to play and get the special offer of $50 in credits to buy your first cards, the link will be in the description of this video. I want to thank you all very much for watching and have a great day.